The year is 2025. A silent war rages on, not fought with bullets but with silicon and light. Semiconductors are the prize, tiny chips, yet immense power. They run our modern world, from phones to fighter jets. Control the chips, control tomorrow. This was the global chessboard. The United States drew a line, a clear line in the sand. China was on one side, the West on the other. Export controls were the weapon, designed to halt China's advance, especially in advanced chips. Everyone expected compliance, allies were supposed to follow. The plan seemed straightforward. Then, an unexpected tremor. It came from the Netherlands. A company named ASML. Quietly, it held immense power. ASML makes unique machines essential for top-tier chips. Extreme ultraviolet lithography, or EUV, the pinnacle of chip-making tech. Without ASML, you lag behind. This fact was undisputed. ASML made a move that surprised many. It signaled a complex game, not just black and white. The chip war had new dimensions. National interests were at play. Corporate strategies too. The world watched closely. What did this mean for the future? The global tech order felt a shift. The United States had clear demands. Restrict sales of advanced tools to China. This included ASML's prized EUV systems. The goal: slow China's tech rise. Washington expected its allies to agree. The Dutch government faced pressure. ASML was their crown jewel, a company of global significance. The pressure was immense. A geopolitical tug-of-war began. ASML, however, found a path between total obedience and open revolt. They agreed to restrict the most advanced EUV. But older systems, deep ultraviolet lithography or DUV, these were a different story. ASML argued these were less critical, less directly tied to cutting-edge military use. So sales of DUV machines to China continued, and in some cases even flourished for a time. This was not what the US fully envisioned. This decision was significant. It showed limits to US influence even over its closest allies. ASML is not an American company. It has its own shareholders, its own strategic interests, and its own contractual obligations. The Dutch government also had a say. They sought to balance US demands with their own economic priorities. The world took note. ASML's partial compliance was a statement. It highlighted Europe's desire for autonomy, a resistance to being a simple follower. The chip war was not just US versus China. It involved other powerful players with their own agendas. ASML's actions underscored this complexity. The global semiconductor game grew more intricate, and the stakes kept rising for everyone. ASML's decision was not without risk. Defying Washington even partially is perilous. The US has powerful tools: sanctions, trade restrictions, diplomatic pressure. ASML could face repercussions. Its access to American components or markets could potentially be threatened. The company walked a tightrope, balancing commerce and geopolitics. A delicate, high-stakes act. So why take such a risk? Firstly, China is a massive market, a growing market for ASML's DUV systems. Completely cutting off China meant lost revenue. Billions of euros were at stake. This impacts jobs in the Netherlands, affects shareholder value, and funds future research and development. ASML needs vast sums for R&D to stay ahead in the tech race. Secondly, contractual obligations mattered. ASML had existing orders from Chinese firms. Simply canceling them was complex, legally and reputationally damaging. Furthermore, ASML operates globally. It serves customers worldwide. Appearing to bow entirely to one nation's policy could alienate other clients. Maintaining an image of neutrality, or at least business focus, was key. Finally, there was a European dimension, a desire for strategic sovereignty. Europe did not want to be a pawn, caught between US and Chinese ambitions. ASML is a European tech champion. Its success is vital for the continent. The Dutch government, while a US ally, also considered European interests. Protecting their key industry was paramount. ASML's stance reflected this nuanced view. Despite immense US pressure and restrictions on advanced technology, China showed remarkable resilience. Its domestic chip industry did not crumble. Instead, it intensified its efforts. A national mission was declared to achieve self-sufficiency in semiconductors. This became a top priority, fueled by massive government investment and a sense of national urgency. News emerged of breakthroughs. SMIC, China's leading chipmaker, reportedly produced 7-nanometer chips using existing DUV equipment, perhaps even from ASML. This was a significant development. It showed China could innovate even without the latest EUV machines. They were finding ways around restrictions, pushing the limits of older technology. This progress sent a clear message. Sanctions might slow China down, but they might not stop it. In fact, they could spur innovation, forcing Chinese companies to get creative, to develop their own tools, their own processes and materials. The US strategy faced a challenge. A determined adversary was adapting and learning to thrive under pressure. The implications were profound. If China could master advanced chip making, even for slightly older nodes, it would reduce its reliance on the West. It could build its own tech ecosystem. This would shift global power balances. The chip war was far from over. China's advances proved its resolve. The dragon was indeed roaring, determined to forge its own path. For ASML, China is not just another market. It has become increasingly vital. In recent years, sales to China surged, especially for DUV lithography systems. These machines are workhorses, used for a wide range of chips, not just the absolute cutting edge, but essential for automotive, consumer electronics, and many industrial applications. China's demand was and is huge. By 2024, and into 2025, China became one of ASML's largest markets, sometimes even the largest by revenue share. This financial inflow is crucial. ASML invests heavily in research, developing next-generation EUV and even newer technologies beyond that. This R&D costs billions. Sales to China help fund this innovation. It's a cycle sales fuel progress. Cutting off this revenue stream entirely would have severe consequences for ASML. Reduced profits, potential job cuts, and less money for vital R&D. This could erode ASML's technological lead, a lead that is its main advantage. The company's leadership understood this. The economic argument was powerful. It shaped their response to US pressure. Business realities could not be ignored. Moreover, the global chip ecosystem is interconnected. ASML selling to China also means Chinese chipmakers can produce more chips. This can alleviate some global shortages, though it also fuels China's tech growth. It's a complex trade-off. ASML's sales to China are thus pivotal, not just for the company itself, but for the broader semiconductor landscape and the global economy it supports. Europe watched the US-China chip war with growing concern and internal debate. On one hand, European nations are US allies. They share concerns about China's rise and its implications for security and intellectual property. There was an understanding of US motives, a need to protect sensitive technologies. This led to some cooperation, such as the Dutch restrictions on EUV. However, there was also frustration, a feeling of being squeezed between two global giants. European companies, like ASML, felt the direct impact of US policy. Sometimes it seemed US companies received more favorable treatment or exemptions that European firms did not. This led to accusations of unfairness and questions about US intentions. The call for strategic autonomy grew louder. Europe wanted to chart its own course, not just follow Washington's lead, especially in critical tech sectors like semiconductors. The EU launched its own Chips Act, aiming to boost domestic production and reduce reliance on foreign powers. ASML was central to this vision, a European champion to be protected. This created a complex dynamic. European governments tried to balance alliance commitments with economic self-interest and the desire for technological sovereignty. ASML's partial defiance of US wishes can be seen in this context. It was not just a company decision, it reflected a broader European sentiment. A continent seeking its own voice in a rapidly changing global order. China's response to Western pressure was clear. It was an all-out national effort to build a self-reliant chip industry. The government poured unprecedented sums, hundreds of billions of dollars, into research, development, and manufacturing. New fabrication plants, or fabs, sprouted across the country at an astonishing pace. This was not just about commerce. It was about national security. The ambition was breathtaking. China aimed to master all aspects of the semiconductor supply chain, from chip design software or EDA tools, to manufacturing equipment like lithography and advanced materials. This is an incredibly complex task. No single country dominates everything, but China was determined to try, to break free from Western choke points. Progress was undeniably being made. Chinese firms were rapidly improving in chip design capabilities and in manufacturing processes. They were hiring talent globally and investing in domestic education. While full self-sufficiency is distant, especially at the very cutting edge, China was closing the gap in mature nodes and making inroads in more advanced ones. This massive investment changed the game. It meant the chip war was escalating. It was no longer just about export controls. It was a race for technological supremacy, a race involving vast resources and intense national determination. China was building its own silicon shield, hoping to become impervious to sanctions. The West watched with a mix of awe and growing apprehension. The events of recent years, ASML's delicate dance, China's surge, US persistence with restrictions, all point towards a deepening rift, a potential bifurcation of the tech world. One bloc led by the United States with its allies in Europe and Asia, focusing on maintaining its tech edge and restricting China's access to critical know-how and equipment. On the other side, China, driven by its quest for self-reliance, building its own ecosystem, from hardware to software standards, potentially creating a parallel tech universe with its own champions, its own rules. This could lead to two distinct spheres, with limited interoperability and intense competition across the board, from AI to quantum computing. This growing rivalry is costly. It involves massive government subsidies in the US, Europe, and China, all trying to onshore chip production and secure supply chains. It fuels competition for rare materials, for skilled engineers and scientists. It creates uncertainty for global companies, who must navigate conflicting regulations and geopolitical tensions. The big question looms large. Is this division inevitable? What will it mean for ASML? Can it continue to serve both worlds, or will it be forced to choose? What does it mean for global innovation? Will competition spur faster progress, or will silos hinder collaboration? The future of technology, and perhaps the world, hangs in this delicate, shifting balance. As we stand here in mid-2025, the path forward is anything but clear.